Tonight, we open the Canuckonomicon, an ancient book carved from the hide of a moose and penned with the quill of a Canadian bird, to the chapter on the forgotten. I, your host Junior, am here with my father and ancient master,
Dirty Clyde.
Welcome back, everyone, to
He only did that because his wife told him that that he had a boring opening.
I don't mind doing a cold open, but yeah, that's not untrue. Welcome back to the Canuckonomicon, guys. Like I said, I'm Junior. This is Dirty Clyde, and so I was reading the National Post this week.
Oh yeah,
Hellman's is releasing Mayo Chup to Canada. Mayo Chup.
I don't know, like ketchup mayonnaise.
Yeah, it's mayonnaise pre-mixed with ketchup.
That's really gross.
It is really gross, and it turns out that they did not do their due diligence in their research. See, the name actually accurately describes the experience you're going to have eating it in Cree, because in Cree, Mayo Chup translates to shit on your face.
That's one of those things like Japanese people put on their T-shirts.
So it's and I should point out, it's not shit faced like drunk. It's literally you have a gob of shit on your face.
Really?
Yes.
That is something else.
Yes, and so that just goes to show that if you're going to release a product, do your research.
That's correct. Do your research, kids. Don't just go all half-cocked.
That's right. So today we're going to be starting off our story here on a fellow named Brother 12.
XII.
Yes, Brother XII or Brother 12.
Yes.
Also known as Edward Arthur Wilson.
They always have three names.
Yes, they do. They have a first name, a middle name, and a last name, kind of like most people.
Except
from the
that when you
Western
say
world.
them, it sounds serial killerish.
Yeah, well, because it's three first names in this case.
Yeah.
Edward Arthur Wilson was born in Birmingham, England in 1878, and his parents were devoted followers of another cult leader, Edward Irving, another two first names guy.
No, it was just Edward Irving. What was his middle name?
I couldn't find his middle name. It was literally just Edward Irving.
Ed Irving.
Ed Irving. Irving had long been obsessed with the subject of prophecy, studying the works of a particular Jesuit priest whose teachings led him to believe that the second advent of Christ was near. As a result, Irving was a cult leader. His teachings were far from the orthodox teachings of the Scottish Presbyterian Church, of which he was a minister. And by 1833, Irving had found himself deposed from the church on charges of heresy before passing away the following year. Irving's movement outlived him, however, becoming the Catholic Apostolic Church, a movement that believed new apostles were being named in Great Britain at the time, and that Irving was indeed one of them. The group faced harsh opposition in the established Orthodox churches, such as the Anglicans in England and the Lutherans in the German states.
Oh.
And this was the environment that little Edward Arthur Wilson was born into in 1878. So this movement obviously long outlived its progenitor.
Yeah.
Beyond that, we don't actually know a whole lot about Arthur Wilson's childhood. He didn't go by Ed usually. He usually went by Arthur. And then later on, Brother 12. Arthur Wilson would later in life claim that he had been visited by angelic beings when he was a child. Beyond that, we don't know a whole lot. Now, I don't know about you. I personally don't think he was visited by angelic beings.
Remember, what was it, Beetle Man?
Oh, Beetle Man, good old Beetle Man.
Mhm.
That's because the Beetle people were fighting in Vietnam.
Oh. Okay.
I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah.
That's a whole thing. It's either Beetle people or s- the spider bureaucracy. Depending on who you ask.
There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamed of in your books, Horatio.
Well, I'll just. Clyde's just giving me this look like, what the hell? You're just gonna leave that there?
That's fine. Okay.
So, yeah, Arthur Wilson, probably not visited by angels. He, like I said, we don't know how rich he was. We don't know much about his parents. According to Arthur Wilson, his father was a missionary in India and married a Kashmiri princess. Given what we learn later about Arthur Wilson and his desire to tie himself to the religions of the Eastern world, probably BS. Especially given that his father, or that he also claimed to have transported, as he called them, Negro slaves from Africa to Turkey at this time.
Well, well, that was the word they used in those days.
Well, not just that, but Arthur Wilson also was a famously big liar. And we are this is one of the few things we can prove. We're pretty sure he never did that. Because he claimed to be doing it as part of the English Royal Navy.
Right, which had abolished the practice probably almost 100 years previously.
Yeah. We do know that he trained on a Royal Navy ship and that he eventually became a navigator. And in 1902, he met a woman in New Zealand, married her, and had 2 kids by her. In 1905, he moved with her to Victoria, British Columbia, where he worked as a laborer and a baggage handler. Despite this, he was not known for being a particularly strong or robust man. And if you've seen pictures of this guy, he is scrawny.
Oh, a little scrawn.
Yeah, it's kind of got a pointy chin and bony elbows.
Thin lips.
Thin lips. It doesn't seem to have slowed him down, though. He worked pretty hard, but even while working in Victoria, he spent most of his free time sailing, often sailing the Georgia Strait between Vancouver Island and the mainland and the Juan de Fuca Strait, which drains the Salish Sea into the Pacific Ocean. Wilson was also known to leave a trail of personal debt in his wake. And this case was no different. He left his wife in Victoria and supposedly gave his landlady the enigmatic promise to return with money as the head of a new religion.
Well, yeah, I promise I'll be paying you as soon as my new religion takes off.
Yeah. And I don't know how true that is. It certainly came.
When I achieve nirvana, I will be sending you some of my blessings.
Yeah. I'm going to send you some of the paving stones from heaven when I return.
That's right. They'll be made of gold because that's how I will wish it.
Arthur left his rooming house in 1912 and arrived in San Diego, where he would begin his training in the esoteric and the bizarre via the teachings of one Helena Petrovna Blavatsky.
And as we all know, San Diego is Spanish for a whale's vagina.
But yes, our burgeoning cult leader trained under one Madame Blavatsky.
Sinister.
Well, those who are familiar in such things will know that Blavatsky's society, the Theosophical Society, claimed that there had once been a worldwide ancient wisdom religion that had been destroyed by the Christianization of Europe, but still existed in modified form in India and was the basis for the ideas of people like Aristotle and Plato. Helena saw herself as a messianic figure, bringing this ancient religion back to life in her writings. And she wrote a lot. Much of her teachings form the basis of what we call modern-day occultism or esotericism. Ironically, she seemed to be very sympathetic to the Russian Orthodox Church, despite opposing to the Eastern Orthodox Church, to the Russian Orthodox.
Right.
Despite opposing the Western churches very vehemently, even comparing Russian Orthodoxy to her beloved quote-unquote Buddhism, which she always told people she was. She told everybody she met she was a Buddhist. People who knew her and knew what Buddhism were like, she is a very eccentric form of Buddhism.
Oh. Homemade Buddhism,
It's
like we do in North America.
Exactly. She believed that her form of Buddhism was closer to the ancient wisdom religion than most any other religion, saying that, but she said of the Russian Orthodox Church, with the faith of the Russian Church, I will not even compare Buddhism. In other words, she believed that Russian Orthodoxy was even more like this ancient wisdom religion than Buddhism was.
I'm even more Buddhist than the Buddhists.
Yeah, it's very, very, very bizarre that she's talking about how the Christianization of Europe has destroyed the ancient wisdom religion, unless you're Russian Orthodox.
Right. In which case?
Yeah. In San Diego, Arthur Wilson joined Blavatsky's Theosophical Society, traveling around California before leaving the U.S. for Tahiti. After that, he travels widely and broadly and would later claim he was on a quest for spiritual awakening.
Going so far as to places such as Summerhill, Massachusetts.
Well, he did go to Tahiti.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Made it?
Oh, yeah. John Oliphant notes in his book Brother XII, The Incredible Story of Canada's False Prophet, Wilson visited temples, shrines, and sacred sites in many countries, including Egypt, India, China, and Mexico. During his voyage, Wilson also immersed himself in religious education, even outside that of the Theosophical Society. So
he was serious about wanting to have like a thing.
Yeah. He definitely did his research. I've read a little bit on theosophy. I'm not huge into it myself for obvious reasons, but
it's the beard.
It is. That's right.
He's got one of those Eastern Orthodox beards.
And Wilson takes most of what he believes from theosophy. Like the vast majority of what he believes comes from theosophy. But that said, he does change it. So theosophy ultimately believes that once we've rediscovered this ancient wisdom religion that was shared by all mankind, then we'll bring about a new awakening, a world peace. Wilson diverges from that quite a bit, but we'll get into that a little later. We will talk a bit about what his own foundation believed. We do know that he drifted into a small French village, and according to Wilson's own account, it was 1924 in the south of France that he finally had his spiritual awakening. He published in his book Foundation Letters and Teachings, October 19th, 1924.
That's my birthday. Not 24, but October
19th. I was not feeling well and had gone to bed early. At this time, I wanted to get some milk to drink, so I lit the candle which stood on a small table at the side of my bed. Immediately after lighting it, I saw the Tao suspended in midair just beyond the end of my bed, and at a height of 8 or 9 feet. I thought, that is strange. It must be some curious impression upon the retina of my eye which I got by lighting the candle. I will close my eyes, and it will then stand out more clearly. I shut my eyes at once, and there was nothing there. I opened them and saw the Tao in the same place, but much more distinctly. It was like a soft golden fire, and it glowed with a beautiful radiance. This time, in addition to the Tao, there was a 5-pointed star very slightly below it, and a little to the right. Again I closed my eyes, and there was nothing on the retina. Again I opened them, and the vision was still there, but now it seemed to radiate fire. I watched it for some time, and then it gradually dimmed and faded slowly from my sight.
That's quite. That's. I mean, hey, if you were going to have a revelation experience, that's how you would describe it.
Yeah, that's right. According to Wilson, this was a sign that he was on the correct path. So these are theosophical symbols. The Tao, we would now actually call an Ankh.
Right.
And the star was a symbol that he had achieved adeptship or spiritual enlightenment. So the Tao is a symbol of Egypt. So for him, this meant that the path to his enlightenment lay through the teachings of the ancient Egyptians. And the star was a symbol that he had achieved that enlightenment, or that he was near to achieving it. On October 22nd, Wilson heard something he called the voice.
When you start hearing voices, that's, yeah.
Well, especially when you hear the voice, because
The voice.
that means you've got a bunch of washed up Hollywood celebrities talking in your ear, and that's a problem.
Yep.
He described the voice as faint but very clear and wonderfully sweet. It conveyed a sense of unutterable majesty and power. The bed shook, the room wherein I lay was shaken, and the very air throbbed and vibrated.
Throbbing.
The words the voice said to him were the invocation of day. Thou who hast worn the crown of Upper and Lower Egypt, of the high knowledge and the low, humble thyself, prepare thy ears, for the mighty ones have need of thee. Thou shalt rebuild, thou shalt restore. Therefore, prepare thy mind for that which shall illumine thee.
Uncanny.
According to Wilson, he had received a spiritual call from the Dionysus, a powerful Egyptian deities found often in theosophical circles. So this was the name of these creatures. This was the beginning, the genesis, you will, of Arthur Wilson's voyage back to Canada to found his cult. But first, he had more to learn. He traveled around receiving tutelage from an occult entity said to be a member of the Great White Lodge, a spiritual group in theosophical teaching known as a Master of Wisdom. He did this via meditative trances and automatic writing, and through this compiled his first manuscript, a book known as the Three Truths. He believed himself to be a spiritual successor to a former messenger of the Great White Lodge, Helena Blavatsky, and that his work would be instrumental in ushering in the next stage. Indeed, he later wrote of what he called the work he was about to undergo. The Pisces age has ended. The sign of water and blood has set, and Aquarius rises. The mighty triangle of air is once more in the ascendant. In January of 1928, our work commences on the physical plane, the special work of restoration. Jupiter, lord of the great religions of the world, passes out of Pisces and comes to the conjunction of Uranus in the sign of Aries. That which seems immovable shall be destroyed, so that no vestige of it shall remain. The star of Jehovah, the God of Israel and Christendom, sets, and it sets in a sea of blood. Rejoice, my brothers, for the great gods, the mighty ones, shall be made manifest before the eyes of all men.
Dun, dun, dun.
It is the age of Aquarius. The age of Aquarius.
Aquarius.
He then received the 4,000-word manifesto that would outline how the work was to be done. This manifesto was called A Message from the Masters of Wisdom in 1926. His master told him that it would be well received. He then went to England to find disciples. Wilson had already been writing articles for the Occult Review in England under a pseudonym, and as a result had already become something of a celebrity in the area. And it was in England that his book, A Message, would be printed, and given the recent end of World War I, this book, with its apocalyptic knowledge and all these stories of how the world is about to end, was very well received indeed. It spoke of an impending crisis that would turn the world upside down, and that only through universal brotherhood could the new age come about. It predicted an era of righteous government, of just rule. The conclusion of the message read, "This is the message of the masters, the message of brotherhood. It is simple and easy to understand. The issue is perfectly clear. But every man to whom the message comes, it must be either accepted or rejected. No neutral position is possible, for this message shall divide the wheat from the chaff. It is a sword that shall pierce to the heart of every earnest man, the sword of truth."
Oh, the sword of truth.
The declaration of the truth of universal brotherhood is the messenger's guarantee and surest credential from the masters whom he represents. This and no other. The message is everything. The personality of the messenger is nothing. On the acceptance of the message itself, all must stand or fall. Peace be to all beings. Triangle.
Well said.
And there, I think we'll take a quick music break and then we'll get back to it.
I got I got Junior a pop filter because he was frothing. He was frothing, and if you know me and my microphones, they're sacred to me.
I really like that song you did there, Dirty Clyde.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I love 5/4 time. It's my favorite time
Oh, you-
signature. Full disclosure, Dirty Clyde records the songs after we record.
Well, it's because I have no clue what the episode's going to be about. Just
Yeah.
like this, I thought it was going to be some boring blah blah about some cult guy and now we get fire and brimstone. But it's okay. I can make 5/4 out of fire and brimstone.
Well, there you go.
It'll be a slow 5/4.
Very slow. Duh, 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 duh. There you go. Now I've got your rhythm.
Oh.
So Arthur Wilson, our burgeoning mystic, continued to write for the Occult Review under the assumed name Chaylor. Not Taylor, Chaylor with a CH.
CHAYLOR.
Yep,
Yes. It sounds more mystic.
I guess. It was E.A. Chaylor, so he didn't even change his first names.
No.
And he continued to stir up interest as a result of his writings. At this time, he also responded to people who had read the message and gave the name he had given to the great work and his ideas of pioneering a new race and a new ideal, as he called it. This work, this great work that was coming, was to be called the Aquarian Foundation. Thus, in 1926, the foundation was formed. Wilson had become friends with many high-ranking British astrologists and mystics as a result of his works, especially those who had become more disillusioned with the direction of the Theosophical Society, especially in the wake of the Great War. As I mentioned, the Theosophy is all about world peace and brotherhood, and with the end of the Great War, people had really kind of given up on those ideas. It seemed like world peace could never really truly come. The world had just been turned on its head, and Europe especially was in complete disarray at this time.
Yeah, it was a cataclysmic event.
Yeah, it was absolutely horrifying for a lot of people, and a lot of people were still struggling with it. Alfred and Annie Barley were two of the people who would join Arthur Wilson. At this time, Arthur Wilson had started going by the name Brother 12, and he was living with a woman named Elma Wilson, whom he and others kind of considered to be his wife, though he wasn't legally married to her, as I mentioned, probably because he still technically was married to a woman in Victoria, British Columbia.
Who he just left.
Who he just left, and I can't find out any information about her.
Well,
She's
probably she doesn't want it.
yeah, probably not. The two couples, Annie Barley, Alfred Barley, Brother 12, and Elma Wilson, met in January of 1927, and during this meeting, Wilson advised the Barleys to liquidate their British securities and to reinvest in Canadian securities, as Canadian securities, he believed, would depreciate less than any others in the coming ruin of Britain in 1928. The great irony is that Brother 12 was right, though he was off by about 20 years.
Well, it was a 29 was the stock market crash.
Yeah. Well, but the problem is that also hit North America.
Right.
If, on the other hand, he had said to invest after World War II, he would have been absolutely right, because at that time, North American economies, Canada and the United States,
We're soaring.
they were booming.
Yeah.
And the British economy was crashing hard.
Yeah.
Because
and crashed, like, I don't know if it ever fully recovered.
it never did. I mean, you look at the way the Commonwealth shook out, they used to control directly a lot of those states. World War II is where they lost a lot of control.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're right. It never really fully recovered. It was a world power, but it got replaced by the United States.
Yeah.
Wilson talked about building what he called a center of safety with the Barleys in British Columbia. As Alfred Barley said later, the conversation flowed on in such a way that references to the subject of our own personal emigration were not direct and specific as they would have been in a shipping agent's office, but were more or less casual and incidental as they would have been at a friend's supper table. Arthur Wilson then read what he called a special urgent letter that he was going to send to all the Foundation members, and it urged that due to the coming tribulation, the members must now flee to a settlement in British Columbia, that they should act now and not tell others about what they were doing so as not to cause a panic.
Yeah. So when I rip you off,
It's not far off.
Oh, I can smell it coming.
No, I just slopped beer on myself.
By the way, Junior is drinking an IPA.
Yeah, it's like unheard of.
It is practically unheard of.
And I'm doing a poor job of it too.
Yes, he's spilly pants.
Mr. Spilly Pants. British Columbia was to be the cradle of the 6th sub-race, which Wilson believed was to be the purpose of the Foundation, to prepare the world for the coming age of Aquarius. BC was ideal for creating a strong, fit people to usher in this new era. The Master's work was already completed on the inner planes, and it was now time for them to complete it here on the outer world. My brothers, I do not have to tell you that this is a great vision. It is the greatest vision in the world today, the vision of the new age. Already others have caught glimpses of it and are trying to give expression to it through ideas and devices of their own, but that is not our way, because to us it has been given to follow and to work with those who are the originators and the true executors of the plan. That is the vision as it has been shown to me. Make it your own, consecrate your lives to it, then shall we see its form and fruit upon the physical earth, the counterpart of that pattern eternal in the heavens. Your brother in service, 12.
Was there a little triangle?
There was no triangle this time. Yes, at this time, he was indeed going by the name 12, or Brother 12. You see, Wilson's master was the 12th master of the Great White Lodge. So Wilson was going by the name 12 as he was a channel for the 12th master of the Great White Lodge. Others in his inner circle would be given similar appellations depending on which master that he believed they were channeling. But now the work was underway. It was time for Brother 12 to head west for Canada. And that's where we will pick up on our next episode. I had not planned for this to be a two-parter. We're already at half an hour, which is a little short for us. But the next part gets wild. And I feel like it's better that we take a quick break now. And we'll be back next week with the second half, where we will discuss what it was the Aquarius Foundation believed, about the rise and fall of the Aquarian Foundation, and about Brother 12's two mistresses that he had when he led the Aquarian Foundation.
Awesome. Intrigue, sex, scandal.
Yes.
You get it all here.
You can find us at Canuckonomicon on Twitter, or you can email us at canuckonomicon@gmail.com. And I'm on Twitter all the time. So if you find us there and you want to get in touch, just message me.
Yeah,
My
just
DMs
not during the
are
daytime.
open.
He's sleeping then, just like a vampire.
That's right. I am a creepy basement-dwelling beast.
A denizen of the night.
That's right. So we'll be back with you guys next time here as we open up the Canuckonomicon. Canuckonomicon is a production of Crossing Clay Studios. We can be found on Twitter at Canuckonomicon
and you can contact us through email at canuckonomicon@gmail.com. Please be sure to share us with your friends and family, and keep your eyes open.